Stephanie White, and actually, I spoke about this yesterday. Right. I told y'all, I say, look, Stephanie White looked like she's doing something different than what she did last year. See, last year, she was speaking to all media. This season, it looked like she's only speaking to Indiana media, which means to tell me this is a PR stunt. Oh, this is a PR stunt. Now, shout out to Venom Reacts. I believe that's his channel, man. A lot of people been sending me his live. So I'm not going to react to his live or anything like that because that's his content. Now, what I want to say about
recent developments surrounding the Indiana Fever organization have sparked considerable discussion within basketball circles. Coach Stephanie White appears to be engaging in selective communication strategies, choosing to interact primarily with local Indianapolis outlets rather than broader national platforms. This shift in approach has raised eyebrows among observers who notice the pattern differs significantly from previous seasons. The timing of these media engagements seems particularly calculated, following recent criticism and analytical breakdowns from independent content creators examining the team's strategic decisions. There's been a noticeable uptick in carefully orchestrated interviews. One prominent creator released detailed footage questioning various organizational choices, and shortly afterward, scheduled interviews began surfacing through local media channels.
About Venom Live is, from what I heard and the little bits and pieces of it I've seen, he put a collage together, kind of exposing Stephanie White in so many ways. Now, that was released this past Friday, right? Stephanie White did an interview like recently, like it's gonna come out, because every time, and like, this is what I be telling y'all, bro. This is why you cannot trust, I hate to say this, Indiana media. You can't trust your Chloes. You can't.
This pattern has created skepticism about the authenticity of information being shared. When controversial topics emerge in independent sports analysis, official responses through friendly media outlets tend to follow predictably. The controlled messaging approach makes it challenging to get straightforward answers about internal decisions and front office operations. Local beat reporters with organizational access sometimes appear reluctant to challenge official narratives directly. The current situation centers on questions about coaching philosophy and player utilization. There's growing tension between implementing predetermined offensive schemes versus adapting systems around elite talent.
Media. You can't trust your Chloes. You can't trust your Scotts. Anybody with one of them damn media passes, you can't trust them. Just period as day. Because they is going to control the narrative. They ain't going to call it, shout out to Ben Daniel, spade a spade. They ain't going to shout out, look, bro, they ain't going to call it spade a spade with these different situations that occur with the front office, bro. Now, from my understanding, and what I heard is that they watch the podcasters, and every time it's a big story.
Historical precedents in professional basketball consistently show championship teams building their strategies around superstar abilities rather than forcing stars into rigid frameworks. Whether discussing legendary players or current phenoms, successful organizations typically construct their playbooks to maximize their best players' unique strengths. Recent reporting through local media indicates Caitlin Clark remains on schedule for her rehabilitation goals, progressively advancing through controlled basketball activities. The stated plan involves gradual progression from limited scrimmages to full 5-on-5 participation by late October. Official statements emphasize a cautious, measured approach to her return from injury. However, alternative information circulating through various channels suggests a different timeline.
And every time it's a big story. Here comes PR. Last time it was Scott Agnes. It was Scott Agnes last time. The little errand boy. Yes, sir, Amber. Yes, Amber and Kelly. I got you. I'll say whatever you need me to say to calm the people down. They know too much. Hey, guys, I'm here to tell you, Stephanie White is going on a media tour because she's in the fire right now. And I know it's all funny games and jokes, but in all reality, Stephanie White got her feet to the...
According to sources outside official media partnerships, Clark may have been physically capable of returning to action significantly earlier than publicly acknowledged. Reports indicate potential readiness dating back to mid-August, though these claims remain unverified and exist primarily in speculative discussion. The organization maintains they're taking appropriate precautions with Clark's groin injury recovery. Official messaging emphasizes week-by-week evaluation protocols and avoiding rushed decisions. Yet questions persist about why the timeline extends so far beyond the initial July injury date, especially when comparing recovery periods to similar injuries sustained by other players who returned more quickly. Some observers note that another player, Aaliyah Boston, suffered a more severe ankle fracture, yet managed to return for playoff competition.
White got her feet to the fire because she don't want to face the music that her system did not work, and her system is not going to work for Caitlyn. And I will, and I'm telling you right now, I'm going to expose it. And I'm going to expose it real bad because this is the type of person I am. I want to see Iowa Caitlyn. I don't want to see no off-ball Caitlyn. I want logo threes. Because that's what brought me here. Ain't no take Caitlyn off the ball. Ain't no none of that. Now, with
the contrast between recovery timelines has fueled speculation about motivations beyond pure medical caution. The groin injury, essentially a muscular strain, typically doesn't require the extended rehabilitation period being described, leading to theories about strategic rather than medical reasoning. An upcoming podcast episode promises additional insights from White herself, scheduled for imminent release. Anticipation runs high for what explanations might emerge regarding the extended absence and recovery protocols. Many expect carefully prepared statements that maintain organizational messaging rather than candid revelations about decision-making processes. The stated reasoning revolves around building a proper foundation and avoiding setbacks during rehabilitation.
No, none of that. Now, with that being said, let's head on over to Twitter right now because Chloe Peterson put out this article, bruh, and we finna talk about it right now. So Chloe Peterson stated, Caitlyn Clark is on track to her goal of starting 5-on-5 by the end of October. Stephanie White says she's building up towards it, starting with 2-on-2, 3-on-3. Blah, 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 blah. That's what Caitlyn Clark been ready to pay. Bro, from my understanding, see, all the big podcasts, we got sources.
White has indicated that rushing the process serves no purpose when sufficient time exists for proper progression. Starting with 2-on-2 work, advancing through 3-on-3 scenarios, and eventually reaching full contact practice represents their methodical approach. The emphasis remains on long-term health rather than short-term availability. In addressing the psychological aspects, White acknowledged the frustration athletes experience when sidelined from their passion. Being unable to compete creates mental challenges beyond the physical recovery process. The additional complexity of experiencing setbacks during rehabilitation compounds these difficulties for competitors accustomed to constant activity and improvement.
Bro, from my understanding, see, all the big podcasts, we got sources. You know what I'm saying? From what I heard, I got to put allegedly on this in case I get in trouble. Caitlyn Clark she been ready to go, bro. Caitlyn Clark been ready to go since about the middle of August. That's what I heard. Middle of August. Now, this is a PR stunt because they still got to say why Caitlyn Clark did not return for the 2025 season. And I told y'all my theory on that.
One basketball analyst made observations about Clark's consistent cooperation with organizational directives throughout her professional tenure. Despite personal preferences or external pressure, she's reportedly followed team guidance at every juncture. This team-first mentality, while admirable, potentially contributes to complex dynamics between player interests and organizational strategies. The broader concern among fans involves momentum and visibility. Clark's trajectory from collegiate dominance through her rookie campaign represented unprecedented growth in sports popularity and cultural impact. The combination of exceptional talent and magnetic personality created a phenomenon rarely witnessed in professional athletics.
My theory on that before we read this article, it's full of BS, and we're going to dive into what she's going to have to say in the second part of this video. But I've been telling y'all this. They did not want Caitlyn Clark to come back because they wanted Stephanie White to run her little offense from Connecticut. That's all this is about. Stephanie White, offense from Connecticut. Instead of having a superstar player, you build a system around them. Michael Jordan, build a system around him. LeBron, build a system around him. Hell, even Paige, you build a system around Paige. Juju, you build a system.
That explosive growth trajectory appears to have plateaued or declined during this extended absence. This momentum shift carries implications beyond individual statistics or team success. The cultural moment that surrounded Clark's emergence into professional basketball created unique opportunities for league growth and mainstream attention. Extended absences, regardless of justification, inevitably impact that trajectory in ways difficult to recover once lost. The fundamental disagreement seems to center on coaching philosophy. Some believe adapting offensive systems to showcase generational talent represents basic basketball wisdom.
Injuries, playoffs, oh my God, what a performance. I'm talking about Caitlin Clark and her play on the court and what she's allowed to do. I get it. Stephanie White said, oh, we got to let her cook, blah, 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 that kind of thing. But until I witness it, until I see it, then I'm going to remain skeptical whether or not the Stephanie White, Caitlin.
Others defend systematic approaches regardless of personnel, trusting that proven frameworks eventually yield results when executed properly. This philosophical divide creates tension between maximizing individual brilliance versus implementing cohesive team concepts. Connecticut Sun's offensive principles, which White previously implemented, emphasize specific spacing, movement patterns, and role definitions. Translating those concepts to a roster featuring transcendent individual talent requires either significant adaptation or asking that talent to subordinate their abilities to system requirements. The resistance to building around Clark's unique skill set specifically has generated criticism from those who view her abilities as worthy of customized strategic approaches.
I'm going to remain skeptical whether or not the Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark thing is really a great marriage. And so we can start here. And going back to performance, we've got the early odds for most valuable player and the championship involving the Indiana Fever. And in fact, that is where I want to start this video.
Additional information, allegedly circulating through informal networks, suggests deeper complexities in the coaching staff's relationship with their star player. While unconfirmed and speculative, these rumors hint at philosophical disagreements about utilization and offensive identity. The preference for ball movement systems versus isolation-heavy approaches creates natural tension when exceptional individual creators join structured environments. The comparison to Clark's collegiate playing style highlights these differences starkly. Her Iowa performances featured constant ball-handling responsibilities, logo-range shooting opportunities, and offensive freedom to create advantages through skill rather than system.
This video. And look, I'm going to also continue to say something else. When I watch a sporting event, I want to be entertained. And I was not entertained by the brand of offense this team played. All right, that's just being honest. It is what it is, right? People are going to like what they want to like, and that's how I get down. So let's check this out.
Translating that approach to professional basketball with its defensive sophistication and roster balance considerations presents legitimate challenges, but the degree of modification being implemented strikes many as excessive. The upcoming media appearance represents damage control according to many observers. Timing suggests responsiveness to mounting criticism rather than proactive communication. When independent analysis gains traction, highlighting problematic decisions or questionable timelines, orchestrated responses through friendly outlets follow predictable patterns. This reactive approach to public relations undermines credibility and suggests organizational insecurity about defending choices on merit alone.
Down. So let's check this out. As the nearly 7-month-long WNBA offseason kicks off, Caitlin Clark's initial 2026 WNBA MVP odds and the Indiana Fever's initial WNBA championship odds have been released by BetMGM and FanDuel. Here we go. Let's just scroll down. It looks like BetMGM for the title. The Indiana Fever at a plus 350. We got the link.
The injury designation limiting Clark to only 13 games carries significant implications beyond the current season. Missing substantial portions of a sophomore campaign disrupts development continuity, statistical accumulation, and team chemistry building. While legitimate medical concerns deserve respect, questions about whether the extended absence serves purposes beyond pure health considerations continue generating debate. White specifically stated she wouldn't presume to speak for Clark regarding frustration levels or emotional responses to the injury situation. Yet she acknowledged the universal difficulty athletes face when unable to compete.
50. We got the Lynx and the Aces at a plus 300, and the Liberty without a coach a plus 450. We'll see. We'll see. I do think the Fever should absolutely be amongst the favorites. FanDuel 2026 WNBA MVP odds. Caitlin Clark is number 2 as of right now. Neficia Collier plus 230. Caitlin Clark plus 3.
Working through rehabilitation protocols while watching teammates compete creates psychological challenges distinct from the physical recovery process itself. Setbacks during recovery compound these frustrations exponentially. The strategic calculation, some theorize, involves allowing White to install her preferred system without accommodating a player whose natural game contradicts those principles. By extending the absence beyond medical necessity, the coaching staff gains additional practice time, implementing their offensive and defensive schemes with players more naturally suited to those roles. When Clark eventually returns, the established patterns might prove difficult to significantly modify.
Clark plus 300. Asia Wilson plus 380. I believe that's somewhat similar to what we saw last year. I think Caitlin Clark was number 2 or number 3 last year. Now, these odds may adjust as we go along. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait.
This theory gains credibility when examining playoff results achieved without Clark's participation. The team's performance, while respectable, didn't suggest her absence proved beneficial strategically. Had the roster demonstrated clear improvement or championship caliber play in her absence, arguments about system effectiveness would carry more weight. Instead, moderate success followed by playoff elimination suggests her contributions remain essential rather than disruptive to team success. The broader context involves league dynamics and competitive balance.
Go along. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait to see. So, Stephanie White made these comments about Caitlin Clark's popularity. All right. So, talking about Caitlin Clark's popularity, it reminds Fever coach Stephanie White of another megastar, one that, ironic or not, is one of Clark's longtime idols. Quote, she is literally like Taylor Swift 2.0, and because of that, her name gets thrown into a lot.
Clark's unique ability to generate attention and enthusiasm represents valuable currency beyond individual team success. Organizational decisions that diminish her visibility or impact ripple throughout the league's ecosystem. While team objectives focus primarily on championships rather than entertainment value, the intersection of competitive success and marketability creates complex considerations. Sources operating outside official channels suggest Clark maintained physical readiness well before official timelines indicated. The gap between actual capability and stated return dates fuels suspicion about motivations driving these decisions.
Literally like Taylor Swift 2.0, and because of that, her name gets thrown into a lot of conversations that have nothing to do with her or her interest or our team or our sport or whatever, White told the Indy Star on Fever Insider podcast episode launching on Wednesday. And she is a 23-year-old kid who loves to play this game, who loves her teammates, who loves to compete, at a high level. On paper, it makes sense for...
If accurate, these reports indicate decisions prioritizing coaching preferences over maximizing competitive advantage or respecting player readiness. The pattern of media management through selective interviews and friendly outlets continues raising concerns about transparency. When organizations only engage with journalists unlikely to challenge official narratives aggressively, the resulting information landscape becomes unreliable. Tough questions about decision-making rationale, timeline discrepancies, or strategic philosophy get avoided rather than addressed substantively. Independent content creators filling this analytical void face different incentives than credentialed beat reporters.